I followed Hot Jukes for like, what was it, a week? I think it was a week.
Oh, too much. Too long.
Yeah, that's when I used to rotate him around.
Okay, well, you know what? We got to rotate around from the desk over to the commentators because the final match of the day is upon us. Kalaris and Hot Jukes, take it away.
Woo! The rotation coming in hot. And now, here we are with the final match of the day. It's Miramar. Now, Kalaris, before we get this started, I want to talk about some stats, all right?
Okay.
So one thing I really like to look at is what really sets apart these top teams versus the teams that are struggling so far in this tournament. One, I got to mention right off the rip, is the amount of smokes used so far, okay? There is a huge disparity from the teams that are at the top of the leaderboards versus at the bottom. Vampire Esports have already thrown 94.
94?
94 smokes.
Plus 5 games.
That is right. Gladiators actually only thrown 47. So pretty big difference right there. Base Clan throwing 99, Alpha 7 throwing 89. And going down the line, the rest of the squads, they don't even come in close. Some barely even breaking that 40 mark. How do you think that has assisted these teams ranking at the top of the leaderboard?
Honestly, we've played majoritively Erangel and Sandhawk before all of that to kind of account for those numbers. It is one of the most impactful utilities in the entire game. As we have our circle popping, that's very easy. We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, extremely impactful, obviously. Smokes oftentimes separate the good teams from the great teams. How they use them. Do they use them defensively? Do they use them offensively? Do they use them to transition? Do they use them to block their opponent's lines of sight? They're an excellently versatile tool.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is seeing them used offensively. Whenever you have a team that is in a really good power position, if you're able to throw those smokes right on their face, it completely eliminates their sight lines, allows you to push up on them. And we saw that happen a couple of matches ago in Erangel, where we were able to see that and those nades rain in and get a huge chicken dinner. But now we're in Miramar, final match of the day. Like you mentioned, this one is a heavy east side performance. Vampire Esports right there in Graveyard. So they had a couple of little shaky matches here so far in the past couple, but now this could be a good time for them to kind of take that lead and keep it even harder than they've already had.
Could be at the same time, though. Fight's already breaking out. Sem9 going to be taking the fight against DRS here. They started the game off strong, but Sem9 is not going to be doing so well here, whilst the DBS is going to continue to reign supreme. Also, a Pumpy was able to be utilized there as well. So DRS starting things off strong against Sem9, but the off angles are coming in.
Yeah, and DRS currently in 7th place. They have one player down. Can they get this res and finish them off? Sem9 now definitely on the back foot, trying to recover. You can see them hopping in those buggies, and it looks like they're going to want to get away from this fight completely.
A rough spot to be fighting in a long house up against this warehouse, as, yeah, the disengage is on the path. I mean, thankfully, they did have a UAS here ready and good to go, so they can actually bail on out here, Can-Tam. But I mean, what a sketchy situation that was. In these kind of spots, when people are finding DBSs as fast as they are, like, you cannot be taking these big aggressive pushes against them.
Yeah, you can just see in the player cam there in the bottom the disappointment on their face. It's always so tough losing a player early on. But, you know, Sem9 was able to get away from it. With three players up, you could definitely make some stuff happen. So, I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast when you have 18 teams here. You're bound to deal with a hot drop eventually, and Sem9 actually pretty fortunate to actually make it out with only losing one player.
Yeah, definitely. When teams are, especially when teams are having to deal with like a playing path that's of adverse reliance for them. So you find yourself in spots where you even challenge for vehicles with now an 18-team lobby, and even that becomes precarious because people want to drive suddenly north if a playing path is going all the way horizontally through the middle of the map or something like that. So, yep, these occurrences can happen very quickly.
Yeah, and I'm dreaming of the day we will see dedicated vehicle spawns in esports.
Oh, yeah.
You know, And there is only one that we know of, I know of at least, and that's that Golden Marauder. That's right, only one of them inside of Hacienda del Patron. So that is taken up. But yeah, you know, the fact that these vehicles could or could not be there, that makes it all that much more difficult when you're hunting for one.
But I am a fan of the Golden Marauder.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty sick.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty sick.
I don't know if it's as fast as my car, you know, doing all right, brum brum. I like myself some cars.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes I get to go on the Autobahn. That's very fun.
Oh, man. I'm honestly, I am so jealous.
Yeah.
So jealous of that right there. Just sometimes got to let that Marauder open, let it fly.
Yeah, and then it gets really scary sometimes. But anyway, let's take a look at FaZe and see what they're up to here as they are just looting and booting, getting suited and booted, good to go. Here is FaZe as they find themselves decently positioned right now in the tournament overall. 4th place, considering that they got a fantastic win on Erangel. It was going to be hard for them to be dislodged by Vampires, as you can see them in the distance, quite close to one another at the moment. But FaZe is going to be aware that Vampires would be lurking around because this is their general go-to area.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is a pretty insane tournament. I mean, we're talking about $1 million is on the line. So if I'm FaZe Clan, I'm definitely talking to the squad and saying we want to put some points on the board quick, because Vampire has already a good, solid lead, and we want that first place. We want that 6-digit prize pool to take to the bank going into the next stage.
Yeah, spots up for grabs. Those top spots going into that main tournament as well. Then you get even more money racked
It's
up.
like a drop in the bucket, which is crazy,
Yum,
right?
yum, 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 yum. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll take all of that money as we've got ourselves. After FaZe moved into that location, they stood still, they stood fast. They knew, again, as we were saying, that there are threats present in this area. And likewise, as we get on board with other teams rotating on in, thankfully for them, a lot of teams are going to be centering up in this circle compared to playing edge locations, because around Junkyard, around those hills in there, you would rather be there than have to transition there against the 17 other teams in the lobby.
That's a good point, yeah, because if that zone locks on there and you're on the outside, it's going to be tough to breach those squads. And, you got, so far looking at the map, we're seeing some rotations come in a little bit late. Icurd coming in pretty well. Falcons, they just won that last match, and they are a long ways away, but we're taking a look right now at Vampire Esports, who have their eyes locked on R8.
Yep. Few shots against the Shantytown, down towards the bottom. I think for the most part, R8 doesn't really want any of this fight. The reason being is that Vampire has so many locations on these ridgelines that they can fall back to, whereas R8, in terms of their peaking locations, very predictable. So the peak is advantage very much on Vampire's side.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you are R8, that's the last team I'm looking to battle in early game right now. I mean, they are currently sitting in 13th place with only 16 points. Empire have 70. So that is absolutely ridiculous. You can see R8 taking off from that position. And, I've mentioned this before. When you're at the bottom of the leaderboards, okay, what happens is your team name could turn from whatever it is at the time to free points.
Yes.
And that is what you don't want to happen.
I mean, alternatively, we could turn Vampire's name into Vampire Empire when you look at Vampire Esports, because they are clearly claiming what seems like PMWI for themselves at present. Last year, this year, who's going to shut down the Vampire Empire?
Right? And you know what? It goes both ways, because if you're at the bottom of the leaderboards, and you get knocked, thirsted, a team realizes it's you, maybe they want to be more extra aggressive and push you because they know that you are in the position you're in. But like you mentioned on the other way around, if you have that Vampire Empire, you realize it's them, you may hesitate and say, oh, it's Vampire. And that little hesitation could cost you everything.
Yeah, it definitely could, because they have got, as we were mentioning before on our first game, well, with all the eliminations that they've got on the board, they've got such a strong kind of position when it comes to being not too aggressive, not too passive. As we see a huge shift down to the south, going south of Minas Generales, and that is quite the shift for all of those teams in the north.
Oh, yeah. Alpha 7 are definitely on their back foot now. That is a huge advantageous shift for Mazexis Esports and Icurd down south. They're going to make an easy rotation on in now. Dead center, you're going to have, it looks like Infinity IQ centering it up, FaZe Clan. And not to mention, right next to FaZe Clan, here comes that Vampire Empire right at the door.
They will be knocking it down the doors here if you're not careful about it. As we take a look across the players here, looking to try and do something. Alpha 7 looking very focused here in this game. They realize that adversity is going to be against them in this game. Obviously, 8th at the start of this tournament, not where Alpha 7 wants to be, even though they're qualified into the main tournament already. They're kind of everywhere. But yes, they'll be looking for even more on the board for this one.
Oh, yeah. They're looking to add a couple more items into that shopping cart, and they're looking for that good old green. And there's a lot of cheddar to be had here in this stage.
Right. And honestly, one of those items could quite easily be a free pass on this eastern side. If you're looking at how they could rotate down north of Impala. Right now, there's not really any threats that are going to be posing that kind of entrance point a problem. So Alpha 7 could get quite fortunate here.
And I'll tell you what, this team is the king of just edging on in when they're in a bad position. They kind of have a really... I talked to their coach before this tournament, and the amount of research that these guys do and work, the hours that they put in, honestly, it's almost second to none. And you could just tell that research paying off. They do not do anything by accident.
I mean, it shows in your region, right?
Oh, yeah.
You see it. You see it come to fruition. You see it come to the battlegrounds. And Alpha 7, always an extreme force on the battleground. But for now, there's a little bit of a lull in the action here as all the teams, there were a lot of teams in the south that were already kind of centered up in these hills. Kind of east of La Bendita is a little bit open. So the teams over there, like Infinity, for example, just with a 2-2 split, want to be a bit careful. But yes, everyone still just making the rotates. Yeah,
everyone just trying to be able to get it to that late game safe and sound. So far, you know, we're into stage 2. Only 2 people have been eliminated from this lobby, so this zone is going to be hectic.
A quiet game to start things, but yeah, that only makes it more crazy later on, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've talked about this before. I call it the Hot Jukes excuse card.
Okay.
Right?
Do you use it a lot?
I do use it when needed.
Okay.
Right? And I'll tell you what, when it comes to these teams, I allow them only a couple of punches on it, right? Some more than others, all right? One punch I will give is, you know what? First game, day 1. You know, you got the nerves.
That's a decent excuse.
You got things going on. You know, I can go ahead and I can punch that for you. But coming into tomorrow, that's going to be punched out, and you can't use it again. So you got to come in heavy, and you got to make those adjustments. And I think because we see so many players alive right now, we can see them starting to get a little bit more comfortable.
Well, as I kind of envisaged, we're going into the fields east of La Bendita and west of Impala. These are scary. You're seeing Infinity already with a kind of 2-2 split across these fields. They actually have some big priority compounds, but also who has priority compounds is D plus Kia, a team that on the desk Jason was backing. And actually, they're very good at compound control. So if I would say you would end up, they're going to wait depending on the circle, but rendezvousing on that west compound, that is a fortress in this field.
100%. And I'll tell you what, I can understand why they're doing that split. They want to control as much of this real estate as they can, but it gets a little bit scary in this late game because the whole team is going to push that duo. They're going to be in big trouble. We'll see how that plays out as Ikerd playing it very, very safely here.
I hate these fields because there is, unless you have one of the compounds, or actually some teams perch up in the middle, all the way straight down in the road because it kind of dips down as we see a few shots coming in from Ikerd here against Falcons. Don't get him though. One of the greats. You know, it's difficult to find any spot in these fields. You've got a few hay bales to work with. You've got a little bit of the rolling hill topography through, but not much. It's very open. You've got to be careful here.
Yeah, you definitely want to have those vehicles to set up an emergency car wall if you can get it. And you can see Team Falcons are losing some of those vehicles bit by bit in a battle here. It's an all-out war. ARAM getting a nice knock here. And there goes another. Falcons getting picked apart.
Very nice shots coming on in. Just going to be finishing off some of those eliminations to get things going. And looks like 6 is going to be running away.
Oh, no. Yeah, you know, 6 throwing the white flag. Just going to go ahead and have 2 of his teammates taken out completely. He says, Team Falcons had a great game in the last one, but this one, they looks like they're just trying to scrounge as many points as they can get.
I'm going to be real. I actually like Ikerd taking the fight as aggressively as they do, because when you're in a south position like this on this kind of circle, good luck finding a good spot in this circle. So go for elimination points. Try and kind of bail yourself out in a game as brutally as possible against the others.
Yeah, 100%, especially considering that they're only 13th on the leaderboards. They definitely got to start getting fired up as well, as we see Yokohama Donuts starting to get into play here. Starting to pressure Young on Galacticos. Oh my gosh.
He's on 1 health.
So close. Barely surviving here, and I think, yeah, they're going to go ahead and make a rotation away from this one.
Definitely. Get out of there. Get out of dodge. Got to be careful as we're about to have that circle pop. Where are we going to go? Unfortunately, Galacticos is done. And okay, we go to where I thought might be the case. This is a brutal location. We're going to see now D plus Kia rendezvous where I was kind of anticipating them, but there are going to be other teams trying to move on this. Sometimes you can be here too early. Sometimes you get multiple teams crashing at the same time, and then you get eliminated, unfortunately. But as shots come in here, Kelsey going down, that is brutal as well. Infinity's going to the road in the dip. That's also a very strong position of power.
Oh, they're going to be set up pretty, and you can see D plus Kia are in a power position. Now it's time to start standing up and putting on that fire. Gets up points. Kitsune trying to drive away as Ray-Z catches him outside the vehicle. Gladiators in an all-out war against S2G.
I've got to commend the players on their fortitude throughout the day. It's been a long day, clearly, and the teams are not kind of falling into the trap of the craziness of a Game 6, because sometimes teams are tired, sometimes teams are having a hard time. Teams are really fortified here, so impressive fights are still taking in what has been quite the day.
I'll tell you what, in quite a day, when it gets long and it gets tough, all you got to do is have your coach whisper in your ear, $1 million.
Oh, yeah, that might do it.
Oh,
yeah.
man, that'll get you going right now. Let's see right now if McHugh can. He gets taken out. Matic, MCG just gets taken out with the reload. And now Gladiators take advantage of it. Here comes the Molotovs. It's really up to Ray-Z to make a huge play, but that use of utility, he's in big trouble.
It's the kind of clash we thought we were going to see in the European Championship, but SUG didn't even get there, and Gladiators mauls S2G on this side. It's an important one, though, because trying to leapfrog into this into this circle is difficult here, and they're going to have Vampires ahead of them.
Well, luckily for them, they were able to do it right on time, and it looks like they're going to get everybody up. DRS Gaming taken out in 15th place. They did get some eliminations, so that's going to kind of help them out a little bit. But definitely not the spot that they wanted to be in. Vampire Esports still alive. What'd you see?
If you're watching the map at the moment, we're seeing actually Agon IX actually moving in against a 2-2 split now of Infinity. They had the road. I'm not sure about this 2-2 split. I think the east location for Infinity is a little bit too high prio for then eventually the crunch down to come to hold a 2-2 split like this. It's a very bold play here.
100%. I mean, I think if you're Infinity IQ, it's time to get in a hurry and try to meet up with your other teammates here, because this 2-2 split, it's working for now, but I guarantee you, stage 5, it's going to be tough.
Agon IX were they were sending it to there, and then they realized people were there, and they were scared away. If they'd have realized it was just 2, I feel like they would have been far more forceful. But they've moved all the way to the north on some extreme retreat.
100%. And that's so tough, especially when you get in a really dire position and you're so desperate on the leaderboard. You start second-guessing yourself. We're starting to see a battle here with an Alpha 7 and ATOT Esports, and Alpha 7 are going to take out Aton. They were not able to get it started here today.
Yeah, Alpha 7 looking great here in defense. But now Gladiators have perched up underneath Vampires. They are good at leapfrogging. However, I don't know if this is going to be the exact play that they want, because they're in nade range. So there's a potential that Gladiators could go down very quickly if Vampire has some util.
If they do or if they don't. Sem9 is eliminated. That's 12 teams remaining in this final game of this All-Stars group stage. Yeah, they definitely have to get going.
Infinity needs... Okay, they're all going to be rendezvousing down on this east side. They have to get together as fast as possible, and they're actually making a very important move here.
Yeah, so let's see. They are actually finally able to group up with their teammates, and this is the team that are in one of the powerhouse positions in this circle, so we could definitely see that towards N-Type. Right now, we're really going to look at Gladiators versus Vampire Esports, two of the top teams in this lobby. And Matic, he seems to have those nades locked and loaded. Vampire Stone does get knocked, but it looks like you see the smokes.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah, coming out huge. And oh yeah, Ravenclaw's off angle could prove problematic.
This is very important for him not to get knocked, but also open things up here for Vampire. Yes, they have the man advantage. It's a spray through, but actually, from the distance here, D plus Kia is able to put the boot in against Kitsune. He overextends a little bit, trying to deal with the off angle, and gets knocked from another team.
Oh, Kitsune, like literally a dagger in his back.
This is huge.
Oh, this is so huge. Ravenclaw with this angle is starting to take Gladiators apart, and that was literally the shot heard across the world.
Now this is super interesting because Vampire actually, whilst they're still in this fight, Maxek is doing huge work here with the F4K, pulling out the M4 to try and get it. Goes for a seat swap, does not work out, and that's him down. Vampire will recover from this. I wanted to talk about, though, they didn't use util to make this happen. They didn't use frag grenades or anything like that. So they went for the the off angle instead to try and shut it down. I'm wondering if they're holding it for the very late game where it is ultra powerful.
Yeah, that's absolutely could happen. And Vampire, very fortunate to be able to get that done when they did, because they're going to have all 4 players res and a nice reset in the bank here. Let's take a look at Aegon IX. I8 as they take on FaZe. Vintor, he is so stuck in that shack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's on fire. Burn, baby, burn.
Rough for FaZe because, again, they retreated back from what was that initial 2-2 split from Infinity that they could have probably blasted down on, but now they find themselves in the north here. As we have a few cheeky solos here and there, it's just Donuts as well as Falcons trying to play it slowly on the east side of this, but wherever this circle goes, the road down the middle is, oh my god, important. It's ultra important. So if we go west or east, those teams are going to have to make some very difficult transitions.
And I love the way Vampire pushes this. You can see them leapfrogging little by little, covering each other's angles. No blind rotations from this squad. And we could see them, just slowly trying to make it across the road down in the center of this zone and just use that little valley to their advantage. Oh, Tony K on the ramp, getting shot in his back. Yeah, he'd go ahead and jump right off that.
So all importantly, actually, these 2 ramps that were added a long time ago to Miramar actually provide quite a lot of cover for this location. It's a deceptive amount of cover that they actually provide, along with the dip down into the road. It's one of the best positions in this circle, but where are we going really will tell us how much more valuable it will be. They've actually got 2 up on the high ground as well. That's quite bold.
Yeah, looking to try to get as much intel as they can. Yeah, zone centers right on up as expected from these players. So Vampire in a solid position. Mazexis all the way in the south side are going to have to push up. Bigatron, been pretty quiet so far. Not one elimination to their name, but this could be their time to shine. Let's take a look at this replay as Carrillo. That pre-nade was disgusting.
Yeah, he got a double on that one coming out of Impala, and considering that teams are kind of up against it when they're coming out of Impala, they have a little bit of a, kind of a timer above their heads. So to take advantage of that, the panic that is going to set in those moments, very impressive.
Absolutely huge. All right, now let's see what Bigatron could get done here. The Red Villains looking to come into the final act and cause some havoc as we take a look at the rest of the squads. Take a look at Mazexis, only team here representing North America. Not having the best start so far, but we've seen some signs of life here and there from them.
Mazexis and I could have been fortunate that the south of this road has been in play for as long as it has, because trying to make those transitions is scary, as we now see some repositions, some shuffling. You can still see them holding on as D plus Kia over on this west side of this compound, but now it's out. So that makes it hard, as these 2 teams were bound to clash eventually.
Hacks with a huge shot there, but gets knocked in return, and Unknown is really close here, so Iker definitely have the advantage. As you even see U-Hive from Bigatron picking up some points on the side, and Iker able to get the res off.
Not bad, not bad. There are still guns trained on him, though. Here comes the reinforcements to try and make it work. It's a bold play, Cotton, but it's going to work on out here as they get taken out in turn. That's a really nice push, but they don't realize lurking below is Unknown.
Bye-bye. Inactive, eating that nade. Unknown just waiting for him, and that was a little bit of a revenge nade right there. 2 of his players taken out because of him. And Inactive, he's going to get outside of the shack, possibly hoping for his teammate to get a res off, and he might just be able to do it.
We haven't seen it yet, but how good is BTR's car for where they are right now? They've been able to send it through to the middle, but it's not exactly the most defended location. So I'm hoping they have a few more vehicles to provide them a little bit of cover in that middle spot. But we'll see as time goes on, once it pops up.
Oh, yeah. We're going to start seeing Bigatron turn things up so far. Yeah, no eliminations yet, but they are just all about that position. And let's take a look at Falcon Esports, their final player.
He's being
in
cheeky.
The smoke, and somehow every single nade has missed him so far. This Molotov is going to be hurt. It's going to hurt, though.
It's the 2 solos. The 2 solos going head-to-head here, or nade to nade, whatever it may be. Actually, it's just a single person.
It's nade to shimmy right now.
Run away.
That's right. 6, just full lay-down mode. Now he's like, he finally throws another smoke out. He's like, yeah, take some of this action. He's got a DBS, though. Battle back and forth. It's UMP is the victor here this time.
Sometimes it go be that way. Yeah.
Be like that.
Sometimes that happens. Naoto saving things here for Donuts. Meanwhile, okay, so BTR has not only their vehicles, but also a little bit of a shack to work with. As Iker here, just peeking on over, actually, and trying to get some cheeky pot shots off, but not to be the case.
Yeah, Bigatron, they're in a good position so far, but it is a little bit scary because all eyes are on them.
It's open, yeah.
Next zone does pop, and I believe Bigatron is barely into this one. So they're going to be able to survive for a little bit longer, but having to leave that position is going to be so tough.
There's a few eventualities here. Technically, Vampire could still continue to hold and play that kind of roadside. I'm still very impressed that they're able to hold the split on the high ground as well. You can see the shots coming in from Agon IX. Sorry, I've done the same as you. Agon I8, as we do, trying to look on over against them from a kind of a long-range position, but not to be the case. BTR, hay bales abound. You can see here, the truck's very important for extra cover.
What a shot. Literally, X marks the spot right there as Yuhai takes down Unknown. Now we're going to start seeing some push. D+Kia pushing up onto Vampire. Oh, tried to catch him slipping, but Vampire split. Just 2 on point.
A very, very bold move again here by D+Kia, and it's not going to work out. Fabian up on the ramp as well, trying to get some overlook on what's going on. Vampire is actually falling to all of these shots and also being pushed into Agon I8, meaning they're being completely sandwiched and taken out.
D+Kia turning things around so quickly, and now, like you mentioned, that's just Ravenclaw up. Left for Vampire. So, you know what?
Deep in the circle.
They were focused too far in the zone. They didn't watch their backs.
I do think their split cost them there. As I was I thought it was quite bold having 2 up on the high ground and splitting out as far as they did. Now there's so many threats around Ravenclaw. I don't know how you make this work.
Yeah, that's what we talk about so much. Those splits are so good when you have a lot of space to work with, but when things get tough, if a team, full pushes you, that number advantage, man, no matter how good you are, it's tough to deal with.
BTR is actually rotating up north here to try and dislodge D+Kia. And actually, they're going to take Fabian straight away. They see the car moving in the distance as well. Going for the second spray on towards him. Trying to shut it down. Here comes BTR completely reinforcing, but the spray's not enough for D+.
Oh my gosh, Genfoss is not able to hit those shots with that Scar. Missing him little by little, but the rest of his team is there to assist him.
There's no way. There's no way Forrest is going to be able to make this work. He has to back off, surely. But even then, you're bound to be eliminated eventually.
Got to try to make it play here. He's got the nade in his hand. Oh, the low toss! Puts him down to 1 HP. He somehow survives that. Yeah, this is one more nade. All it takes. That was an eviction notice, and there it is served.
And we could get down to a 4v4 here. BTR in the north, which are going to be very open to an eventually Infinity, who had the 2-2 split across both of these locations, eventually regrouped like we were hoping they would, and have been holding down that location strong. The only problem is that Infinity has the snake next to them and then has to move first.
Let's see who's going to make that move right here. Let's see. TR looking to get another one of those thick chicken dinners. Infinity IQ looking to put their name on the board here. They do have the northern side of this circle, and they are looking down as Infinity IQ are out of this zone and have to push up.
They are, and how many vehicles do they have to work with? It looks like 2 in the distance at the moment.
Looking for an angle.
They need to find something. They need to try and find an off angle, but Valak is actually going to start things on Infinity IQ. This is huge for Bigatron in the end.
Oh, they can go and just third party this like crazy, and you can just see Valak has definitely made the weight of this rotation that much heavier for Infinity IQ.
Nate goes through, sees him as well. Actually saw his head pop up there. So you're going to try and molly this out, and he now has a real timer against him. Almost caught by that. So close. Tries to go for it. Will he go for a flush? Will he go for a quick flush?
Got him! Valak wants that point. Does he get it? He doesn't!
He will.
Oh, I believe he just might.
I think he bled out.
With the blues. Oh!
No, it's stolen.
It was stolen. Bigatron say, we want all these points. This is looking like it is in the bag. Bigatron Esports about to pull out this huge chicken dinner.
Bigatron Red Villains about to abduct a second chicken dinner on the day here, as looking at how they're able to deal with this, moving on up against it. Infinity's trying to play it out, but it's not going to be enough. The blue pushes out. It's Bigatron Red Villains here with the 2-piece for the day.
Take it to the bank. Another huge victory for them. 19 total points as that was the end of the final game here today. The sparks are flying. I mean, what more could you ask for?
I think what stood out to me was not entirely the gunplay, it was the decision-making on where they were going to make the moves happen. When they moved to those hay bales and created the car fort that I was mentioning that was not on, you couldn't see it for a little while, but it was very, very important. You have to be mindful about how many angles those hay bales have open to them. So creating the car fort, important. Making the move north against D plus Kia,
yes.
also very important to seize a position of strength.
You know, that was a textbook showing of just how position is everything. Bigatron was so quiet in that early game. 0 eliminations for almost the totality of that match. Just hunting down that perfect position like you talked about. And then once they got it locked down, they stood up, started putting in that work, and got the chicken dinner.
I think what's really so impressive to me is the fact that, honestly, there are the compounds that I was talking about. The D plus Kia compound on the west, the Infinity position on the east, and also the road position on the north. Those 3 positions are absolutely 9.9 times out of 10. That's where I'm going in this circle. I would almost never go to the BTR position and make it work. It is difficult to make that spot work.
Hey, that's why they're the villains, baby, right? They get it done when it is needed. And you know what? One thing that comes to mind, it makes me think, you know, what happens if Vampire didn't split in their position? If they stuck together, that could have been brutal. But hey, you know what? Hindsight is 2020.
I have to agree. I have to agree with you. The 2 up on the high ground, it's quite the extension you're making when you do that. You're trying to control that east side to alleviate any pressure that the 2 in the trench might feel. But yeah, when you're split like that, you can't reinforce against the BTR, the D plus push and then the BTR.